In the scorched streets of Los Angeles, amidst the devastation left by raging wildfires, Elon Musk suddenly appeared ready to face a community desperate for help, but instead of a hero, he was seen as a villain. The flames of the wildfires had left Los Angeles in ruins, turning homes, memories, and lives to ash. But in the midst of all this destruction, an unexpected figure, Elon Musk, showed up to offer aid. However, this wasn't the beginning of a hero's tale. It started with skepticism and anger. Why now? Many wondered. Why hadn't he come sooner? For days the fires raged, and now here he was. A family, in pain and frustration, stepped forward to demand answers. Why now? Why us? Los Angeles, once a city of endless opportunities, was now shrouded in a dark cloud of smoke. The wildfires that ravaged the region left it in ruins, with homes reduced to ash and families torn apart. The fires had burned relentlessly for days, and the city seemed to hold its breath as the smoke blocked out the sun. Amid this devastation, hope seemed to be vanishing as fast as the flames consumed everything in their path. In this bleak landscape, one name began to surface: Elon Musk. Known for his ventures in technology and space exploration, Musk was no stranger to high-profile challenges. But this time, he wasn't venturing into space. Instead, he had come to lend a hand in a very different battle, the fight to restore a city on fire. For days, the media had painted a grim picture of loss and destruction. Despite numerous appeals for help, resources seemed scarce. Government agencies were overwhelmed, and relief organizations struggled to keep up. It was into this vacuum that Musk, never one to shy away from difficult challenges, stepped forward. But Musk's arrival wasn't the grand, heroic moment many might have imagined. Instead, it began with an unexpected confrontation. As he led a convoy of Tesla Cybertrucks loaded with supplies, Musk arrived in one of the hardest-hit neighborhoods. The area was a landscape of devastation: charred homes, streets littered with debris, and people who had lost everything. Some residents gathered to receive aid, their faces a mixture of gratitude and disbelief. But others stood, arms crossed, skeptical and questioning. Among them was a woman, her eyes filled with anger and grief. She stepped forward as Musk approached, her voice breaking but firm. "Why now?" she asked, her words laced with frustration. "The fires have been raging for days. We lost everything, and now you decide to help?" Musk was taken aback, his calm demeanor betraying the weight of her accusation. "I understand," he said. "I should have acted sooner. But I'm here now, and I want to help however I can." Elon Musk's convoy of Tesla Cybertrucks slowly made its way through one of the hardest-hit neighborhoods in Los Angeles. The area, once full of life and community, now lay in ruins, with the skeletal remains of burnt houses scattered like forgotten memories. The streets were littered with debris, charred wood, twisted metal, and broken glass, evidence of the destructive power of the fires that had swept through in a fiery frenzy. As the convoy stopped, a small crowd of residents gathered, drawn by the sound of the trucks and the promise of relief supplies. The air was thick with tension and uncertainty. Some people greeted Musk with tentative hope, while others stood with arms crossed, eyes filled with skepticism. For them, his arrival felt almost too late. The fire had already ravaged their homes, their possessions, and in some cases, their entire lives.
Musk, stepping out of his truck, made his way toward the group. He was met with mixed reactions, some offering grateful smiles, others staring at him coldly. To some, he was a symbol of relief, a potential savior in the wake of disaster. But to others, he represented something else, an outsider arriving long after the worst of the destruction had already taken place. The residents stood in silence as Musk began to hand out supplies, food, water, first aid kits. His presence, though initially met with hesitation, began to stir a sense of hope in the crowd. Still, there was an underlying current of frustration. Some couldn't help but ask why it had taken so long for someone like Musk to show up. Why hadn't he been there earlier, when the flames were still raging and families were being forced to flee for their lives? In the midst of this mixed reaction, one family stood out: the Smith family. They had lost everything in the fire, including their home and all their possessions. Their eyes followed Musk as he moved through the crowd, a quiet tension hanging in the air. The mother, her face etched with grief and exhaustion, stood with her arms wrapped around her children, watching him closely. She wasn't sure if she should be grateful for the help or angry at the timing of it. After all, the fire had taken everything from the man. Now, only after the damage was done, did the help arrive. As Musk continued to move through the crowd, A voice broke the uneasy silence. The mother from the Smith family, her face streaked with tears, stepped forward. Her eyes, red and filled with pain, locked onto Musk as she pushed past others to stand directly in his path. Her hands were trembling, but her voice was steady, firm, and sharp. "Why now?" she asked, her words heavy with anger and disbelief. "The fires have been raging for days. We've lost everything, our home, our memories, everything. And now you show up with supplies. Where were you when we needed help the most?" Musk stopped in his tracks, taken aback by the intensity of her accusation. The weight of her words hung in the air, and for a moment the crowd seemed to hold its breath. People turned to watch, some stepping closer to witness the confrontation, while others waited for Musk to respond. He stood there for a moment, choosing his words carefully. The anger in her voice wasn't unfamiliar, but he understood it all too well. The pain, the frustration, the feeling of abandonment. He had seen it in others before, and now it was directed at him. "I understand," Musk said quietly, his tone calm, yet sincere. "You're right, I should have come sooner. I wish I had been here when the fire was still raging. But I'm here now, and I want to help in any way I can." There was a brief pause, and for a moment, the tension in the air seemed to ease just slightly. The mother's expression softened, but only just. It was clear that her anger had not dissipated entirely. But even in her pain, she could see the sincerity in Musk's eyes. She wasn't sure if she could forgive the delay, but perhaps, just perhaps, his presence now might offer a sliver of hope. As Musk stood there, several others from the crowd began to speak up. Some expressed their gratitude, acknowledging the supplies and relief Musk had brought. But there were still those who stood with the Smith family, voicing their own frustrations. The question on everyone's mind was the same: why hadn't help come sooner? Musk listened, his eyes scanning the crowd. The air was thick with emotion, grief, anger, and the kind of raw pain that only comes from losing everything. But amidst it all, there was something else, a faint glimmer of hope. The silence that followed the mother's words was heavy. Musk stood still, his expression a mixture of understanding and regret. He had faced challenges before, but this was different. This wasn't a business venture or a technological problem, it was personal. People had lost everything, and no amount of success or innovation could undo that. The pain in the woman's voice, the rawness of her grief, cut through the air like a knife. "I understand," Musk repeated, his voice soft but steady. "You're right, I should have come sooner. The timing, there's nothing I can say to make that better." He paused, searching for the right words, but finding none that could truly address the depth of the loss. "But I'm here now, and I want to do everything I can to help." The mother's gaze softened slightly, but there was still a hardness in her ease, a bitterness that couldn't be easily erased. She had lost so much, and no apology or promise could change that. Yet something in Musk's tone seemed to acknowledge the weight of her words. She had been heard. "I didn't think you'd show up," she said quietly, her voice losing some of its edge. "But you did. I guess I misjudged you." There was a long pause, and for a brief moment, it seemed as if the tension might dissipate entirely. But the truth was, the anger wasn't gone, it was just momentarily quieted, like the calm after a storm. Musk nodded, taking a step closer. "It's not about me, it's about all of you," he said, his voice unwavering. "The damage that's been done, it's impossible to fix everything. But I'm here to help, in whatever way I can. I can't bring back what's been lost, but I can help rebuild. I can offer support. And I'll do my best to make things right." As Musk spoke, the crowd around them began to shift. Some seemed to relax, seeing his words as genuine, while others remained skeptical. The mother looked at him, her expression still clouded by doubt, but softening ever so slightly. Then, just as the moment seemed to settle into an uneasy truce, another voice rang out from the crowd, a voice that cut through the tension with a simple, yet profound request. The voice came from the Smith family's young son, Jack. His small figure emerged from the crowd, his wide eyes staring up at Musk. His voice, though quiet, was clear and direct. "My mom's upset," Jack said, his tone gentle, "but she really wants you to help us." Musk, taken off guard by the simplicity of the statement, crouched down to meet Jack's gaze. For a brief moment, the anger that had filled the air seemed to melt away. Here was a child, speaking not of the past, but of the hope for the future. Musk's heart softened. "I promise," Musk said, his voice warm and sincere as he took Jack's small hand in his. "I'll help you. I'll do everything I can to help your family." The moment Jack spoke, there was an undeniable shift in the atmosphere. The tension that had hung thick in the air seemed to evaporate, if only for a brief moment. Musk, kneeling to meet Jack's gaze, felt something stir within him, the raw, unfiltered honesty of a child who hadn't yet been shaped by the cynicism and anger that so often followed disaster. It was a reminder of what had truly been lost in all of this. Not just homes, but a sense of humanity and connection. Jack stood before him, his small face a mixture of sadness and hope. He wasn't asking for grand promises or for Musk to wave a magic wand and undo the devastation. He was asking for something simpler, something more profound. He wanted to believe that the help they had waited for was finally here. "My mom's upset, but she really wants you to help us," Jack repeated, his voice steady despite the sadness that lingered in his eyes. His words, so straightforward and pure, pierced through the frustration of the moment and touched something deep inside Musk. Musk looked at the young boy, his heart aching with the weight of the promise he had just made. He had seen countless people affected by disasters, but Jack's words felt different. They weren't just a plea for help, they were a plea for reassurance. "I hope that someone, anyone, would care enough to make a difference." Musk stood up slowly, his gaze shifting from Jack to the crowd that had gathered around. For a moment, the world seemed to stop. Everything that had led to this moment, the delays, the criticisms, the feelings of abandonment, faded into the background. What mattered now wasn't just the supplies or the promises, but the simple truth that there was still a chance to rebuild. Taking Jack's hand in his, Musk gave him a reassuring smile. "I promise," he said, his voice filled with conviction. "I'll help you. I'll help your family. Whatever it takes, I'm here now." As Musk spoke, Jack's face brightened, his eyes lighting up with a small glimmer of hope. The weight of the moment wasn't lost on him. In that instant, it was as though the promise of a better tomorrow had been placed back into his hands. Behind them, the Smith family watched, the mother's hardened expression softening as she saw the interaction between Musk and her son. There was something about the innocence in Jack's plea, the way Musk had responded with genuine care, that seemed to ease the burden of her anger, even if only for a fleeting moment. Maybe, just maybe, the help that had arrived late wasn't too late after all. With Jack's simple yet profound plea hanging in the air, Musk felt a renewed sense of purpose. The promise he made to the young boy wasn't just a fleeting promise, it was a commitment to not only provide immediate relief, but to support these families in rebuilding their lives, step by step. It was a responsibility that Musk knew he could not shy away from, no matter the scale of the challenge. Without hesitation, Musk turned to his team. He quickly convened a meeting with his staff, Tesla volunteers, and other local volunteers who had come to assist. There was no time to waste, and the task ahead was monumental. The scale of the devastation was beyond anything Musk had encountered before, but he had faced hard challenges in the past and he knew that this, too, could be overcome. "We need to move quickly," Musk said, his voice clear and authoritative. "Let's organize teams to distribute supplies across the neighborhood. Water, food, clothing, medical supplies, get everything we can out to these people, and do it fast." His team jumped into action, coordinating the effort with impressive efficiency. Volunteers worked together, unloading boxes of supplies from the Cybertrucks and rushing to distribute them to the waiting families. The streets, still choked with debris and smoke, became a hive of activity. For the first time in days, the community saw a glimpse of organized relief, but as the hours passed and the supplies began to make their way into the hands of those who needed them most, one more detail emerged, something Musk hadn't anticipated. As he moved through the neighborhood, checking in with the residents, he was approached by Jack again, this time with something more personal in hand. "I forgot to tell you something," Jack said, his voice quiet but determined. "We didn't just lose our house, we lost something really special, my grandpa's pocket watch. It was old, and it meant everything to my family. It was passed down through generations." Musk listened intently, his expression softening as Jack spoke. The weight of the tragedy was clear. It wasn't just the loss of material things, but the loss of memories, of heirlooms that carried family history. Jack's eyes filled with sadness, but there was also a flicker of hope that somehow, the watch might still be found. "I know it's a long shot," Jack added, his voice barely above a whisper. "But if you could find it, it would mean the world to me." Musk's heart went out to the young boy. It wasn't just about the physical help anymore, it was about restoring something intangible, something that held deep emotional value. He nodded firmly. "We'll find it, Jack, I promise you, we'll find that watch." Musk immediately contacted his team, instructing them to launch a search effort within the fire zone. It wasn't going to be easy, the land was scorched. The area dangerous, but Musk wasn't about to break a promise, especially to a child who had placed so much trust in him. The search for Jack's grandfather's watch became a new mission, a personal one that would drive Musk and his team to push forward even when the task seemed nearly impossible. The search for Jack's grandfather's pocket watch became more than just an operation. It became a mission driven by the promise Musk had made to the boy. Despite the devastation that had left the area nearly unrecognizable, Musk wasn't ready to give up. He couldn't undo the fire's destruction, but if finding that small, cherished heirloom was something that could bring even a moment of solace, he would do whatever it took to fulfill his promise. Musk's instructions were clear. The search would be thorough, no matter how long it took. Tesla's team, now working in close coordination with local volunteers, spread out across the fire zone, combing through the remains of homes, ruins, and ash. Every part of the destroyed neighborhood was methodically checked. Nothing was too small to be overlooked. The charred remnants of homes held more than debris. They carried memories, some of which could still be salvaged. The task was daunting. The fire had been relentless, and the damage it left behind was profound. Metal had melted into puddles, wood had turned to dust, and the very ground itself had been scorched by the intense heat. It felt as though finding something so small, so personal, would be impossible amidst such utter destruction. But Musk had already made a promise, and he wasn't willing to let it slip away. Days passed as the search intensified. Volunteers sifted through ash and rubble, moving piles of debris, and carefully inspecting what remained of the homes and belongings. The landscape was bleak, nothing seemed to escape the fire's wrath. Yet, despite the overwhelming odds, there was a sense of determination among the search teams. They had come to help, and they wouldn't stop until they had done everything possible. Then, after what felt like an eternity, one of the volunteers called out. A woman from the team had found something. As she carefully removed a piece of charred debris, the damaged form of an old pocket watch emerged from the ashes. It was scorched, its surface warped and blackened, but there was no mistaking it. The watch was still recognizable. The team carefully retrieved it, their hands shaking with a mixture of exhaustion and exhilaration. It wasn't much, but it was something. It was Jack's watch. When Musk received the news, he felt a wave of relief. He immediately made his way to the site where the watch had been found, his heart pounding with anticipation. The discovery felt like a victory, not just for the team, but for the Smith family. It wasn't just a piece of jewelry, it was a symbol of a family's history, a link to the past that the fire had tried to erase. As Musk held the watch in his hands, he could see the damage. The fire had ravaged its once fine surface, but it was still intact enough to hold meaning. He carefully placed the watch in a small velvet box and set off to find Jack and his family. It was a delicate moment. Finding the watch was one thing, but delivering it back to the boy, who had held on to such hope, would be something else entirely. Yet, in the depths of all the loss, Musk knew this was a moment that could restore a small piece of the world that had been taken away. When Musk handed Jack the pocket watch, the weight of the moment was palpable. It wasn't just a physical object, it represented something irreplaceable: family, history, and love. Jack's eyes widened as he gingerly took the watch from the velvet box, his small hands trembling with disbelief. For a moment, he just stared at it, overwhelmed by emotion. Without warning, Jack threw his arms around Musk, his tears flowing freely. The hug was brief but filled with raw gratitude. "Thank you," Jack whispered, his voice shaking. Musk smiled softly, his heart heavy with the realization that this moment was about more than just a lost possession. It was about restoring a sense of hope. The mother, witnessing the exchange, was overcome with emotion. She turned to Musk, her voice filled with newfound respect. "I misjudged you. I didn't think you'd go this far." Musk nodded, his tone sincere. "I can't undo everything, but I'll do my best to help." In that moment, amidst the devastation, a small victory was won, one of hope, connection, and the possibility of rebuilding. The return of the pocket watch was just the beginning of Musk's efforts in the neighborhood. Though the Smith family had received a small, meaningful victory, the road to recovery was long. Musk understood that the true challenge was not only in providing immediate relief, but in helping the entire community rebuild and move forward. Tesla's teams continued to distribute supplies, but Musk's vision extended beyond just the immediate aftermath. He launched a dedicated relief fund, investing millions to help rebuild homes, restore local businesses, and support mental health initiatives. Long-term sustainability became the focus. Musk wanted to help the community build back better, incorporating eco-friendly technologies and resilience to future disasters. The Smith family, still grieving, saw hope in the rebuilding efforts. The neighborhood, once consumed by despair, was coming together. Though their losses would never be forgotten, the possibility of a fresh start gave them something to hold on to, hope for a brighter tomorrow. The events in this story remind us of the power of resilience, kindness, and community. Even in the face of overwhelming loss, hope can rise from the ashes, and sometimes, a simple promise can change everything. Musk's journey in helping the Smith family and the neighborhood shows us that one person's actions can make a difference, no matter how challenging the situation. This story is a completely fictional narrative generated with the help of artificial intelligence. Any resemblance to real persons, events, or situations is purely coincidental. The purpose of this story is not to reflect actual facts, but to inspire and share empathy. It is designed to offer hope, highlight the power of resilience, and encourage the importance of supporting one another in times of hardship. This story is a creative work intended to spark thought and compassion, rather than reflect real-world events. If this story inspired you, don't forget to like the video, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. Together, we can reach more people and take one step closer to making a difference. Let's spread hope and encourage change, one small act at a time.